Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast. We're originating from Genesis Communications Network in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli, and it's just me today. I'll be talking about some tips from my book, some of my thoughts on the corona panic. And if you'd like to weigh in, if you'd like to call in and talk about what your observations are with regarding the corona panic, I'd love to hear from them. But what I don't want to hear about, and if you can call it censoring if you want, but I do not want to hear of the conspiracy theories. I don't want to hear it. And the reason I don't want to hear it is I believe that those theories, wasting time on the conspiracy theories, will prevent you from preparing as well as you might. So it's not that I totally disbelieve the conspiracy theories. I think they have some validity. I really do. And any and all may be true. I've heard about all of them, unless there's a new one in the last 3 minutes. And I think they can absolutely be true. I'm not debating that. But I don't want to waste the time that you can spend preparing to survive it on talking about who done it. If you'd like to call and weigh in on what you are doing to prepare, I'd love to hear about it. The telephone number, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. There's a telephone listen line that's up and running while we are live, and that number is provided by Global Star, and that number is 712-770-9418, 712-770-9418. And back to that call-in line, if you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933. Really, and I'd love to hear what you're doing about preparing for this. But not the conspiracy theories, please. There are plenty of other talk radio shows that would love to hear what your thoughts are on the conspiracy theories, and maybe even the conspiracy facts. But we're not talk radio. We're do radio. We're going to teach you how to do things. And Gwyneth Isaacs would say, hello, Vincent. How are you today? David in Illinois would say, how you doing? Joey in Michigan would just start talking. Norm Shealy would say, yes. So I'm going to tell you that my thoughts. Recently, very recently, I've lost a number of my close friends. People whom I've spent years with. People whom I've spent a lot of time with. People who have come to the farm. And they've walked away from me. And they've walked away for several reasons. And I'll tell you what these 5 main reasons are. And I can't fix these reasons. I cannot fix them. One reason is I would not compromise my morals to get them out of a jam that they put themselves in. So people have asked me to do things for them that go against my morals, my values, and integrity. I won't do it. Even though they're my friends. If they were my friends, I don't think they'd ask me to do those things. They would say, you know what, I know you well enough to know that you wouldn't do these things, even though I got myself in a jam. And even though you could help me get out of it, I know you won't do it because it's a conflict with your morals and values. So that's one reason that I've lost some friends. Another reason is they've cheated me, or they've cheated my family multiple times. Now, here at the Finelli household, we used to be slow learners. We used to turn the cheek and turn the cheek until we were black and blue and bleeding and broken. We don't do that anymore. So people who have cheated me are no longer my friends, and I won't let them cheat me anymore, so they've walked away. And there are people who cannot be trusted to carry out their end of an agreement because they've demonstrated situational morality and or situational ethics many times. So if they say, yeah, but I know we agreed to do that, but things are different now. Times have changed. It's not the same. Those people who have just decided they are not going to hold up their end of the bargain when they absolutely positively could, they're no longer my friends either. And then there are those who have spied on us and snooped and took liberties, went on tour of my house when I wasn't home. They're no longer my friends either. How can you trust someone who snoops through your house when you're not home? How can you do that? I can't. And then that was the fourth reason. The fifth reason is they disagree with me about the reality of the coronavirus and the ensuing corona panic. And I don't get it. For the life of me, I don't understand. How is it possible that if someone said to you, I think there's this disease coming, I think it's going to be really serious, I think there's going to be supply chain shortages, I think life is going to change. It won't be the same as what we're used to. How is it possible that if someone received that advice and they were advised to go get some provisions, maybe some cans of beans, cans of corn, some flour, some yeast, maybe pick up a used bread machine, maybe get a freezer, maybe start storing some meat, in the good old days when you could still do these things. If they received advice like that, how is it possible that they would say, what? Yeah, it'll be okay. How's that possible? How is it possible that people would avoid that kind of information when the signs were all around them, that this is serious, this is real? Why is it that they didn't buy a case, just one case of 12 cans of baked beans? Why? 49 cents a can, 12 cans, roughly $6 with tax. And what's the worst thing that could happen? They'd have to eat it, right? So you buy baked beans that you like, you put them in your cupboard, and you can eat them anyway, right? Everybody eats baked beans. No. Americans on the East Coast are used to shopping, once a day, a couple times, 3-4 times a week. That's what they do. And if you ask them, y'all have some food? Oh, yeah, I got lots. How much? Months. You got food in your refrigerator? Yeah, months. Yeah, we're good. But really, when they open that refrigerator, they look there and they stand there, and their children look there and they stand there with the door open. They go, there's nothing to eat. But yet they believe they have a lot of food. So for $6, they could have and should have bought a case of beans and another $6 a case of corn and another $6 a case of green beans. And when it was on sale, they could have bought some bacon. I'm not saying bacon's good for you. But you know what? If you're really hungry, it's pretty good. even when you think of the nitrates and the nitrites. And you can easily fix that. And I'll tell you how to do that. All you have to do, and we eat bacon, not a lot, but we do. Take a pan of water, and you put your bacon strips in there, and you boil it. You boil it, and what happens is the hot water helps release the nitrates and the nitrites from the bacon. And you can do that twice. Now, what I do is I don't want to pour that fat-laden water with the nitrates and nitrites down the drain. I don't want to do that. So I take the bacon out, and I take that pot and pan, and I walk to the driveway, which is nothing but stone, crushed stone, and I throw it on the driveway. It volatilizes, doesn't cause any problems, and the dogs don't seem to want to eat the driveway because they do smell it. And then I put the bacon that went through the first run in some more water. Actually, I use ProPure filtered water. And I do it again. Now I've gotten most of the nitrates and the nitrites out of the water. And then you can cook it in the traditional way, in a frying pan. And if you want to use a bacon press, that's great. Or if you want to cook it in the oven, that's great. But I suggest that you consider not wasting extra fuel. If you have propane and you're heating with propane and you don't know when the next refill is going to come, if ever, don't waste your propane on your oven because you're using an enormous amount of propane as compared with the top burner of your stove, if you have a propane stove. Now, if you have natural gas, who cares, right? It's just money. And you're not in charge of the supply anyway. So I'm actually being a little facetious by saying who cares. Of course I care, but what I'm saying is it's not like when they run out, they're going to run out regardless of what you do of natural gas in that big tank in that city. And if the grid goes down, it's going to go down whether or not you cooked with your oven or not. Your usage of electricity is insignificant in the greater scheme of things. I'm not saying that it's okay to waste anything. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying it's not going to cause a big problem. So if you have a reason to use your stove, use it. But don't waste anything. Don't waste electricity, don't waste natural gas, and don't waste your propane supply. So what we do is if we cook bacon, we cook it on the stovetop with a press. And sometimes you can use a semi-flat lid over the bacon in your frying pan. And that holds it down rather than having the bacon spatter everywhere. That's the way I do it. I have a bacon press, but the darn thing is rectangular. It's cast iron, it's rectangular. And it doesn't fit in the pot. So I've got to take a saw or grinder and round out the edges and make it fit. I haven't done that yet because that wasn't a priority yet. But someday I will. I'm Vin Finelli. This is USA Prepares. And I'm giving you some random thoughts. And I'm going to weave in and out my thoughts about the corona panic, the coronavirus, and tips. Sue Holland, welcome. You're on with just me.
Thank you again, Vincent. I just wanted to apologize for not being clear yesterday when I said what I did about 100% cure. That is our test subjects up here with respect to the cure for the coronavirus. I wanted to also update you on what happened yesterday. I had written to the president with respect to now disclosing what I disclosed on your show for the first time yesterday with respect to the cure for the coronavirus. So basically what has happened is that with our test subjects up here, the tests were conducted on the most vulnerable, which is a blood type A positive, seemed to be the most vulnerable to be attacked by this coronavirus in the most severe way, meaning death ensues for those people who have those blood types. Blood type O is the less severe of the four, and then of course blood type B or AB, it almost doesn't even notice that they have this virus. So that's kind of how we kind of conducted the test. Also, I just wanted to quickly notify your listeners as to the 4 points that was received by the President yesterday by me with respect to the cure, and I can go through them real quick so that your listeners can have the knowledge what the President had yesterday from me, and that's number 1, black cumin seed or black seed oil is an antidote to the deleterious effects of the coronavirus, which must be taken as treatment immediately upon first signs of sore throat for the duration of the illness. That's usually 2 weeks to 3 weeks. The general population should have approximately a pound of black cumin seed on hand per family until the virus runs its course. Patients need to take 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of black cumin seed chewed properly as needed for the best results, or the equivalent of black cumin seed oil. Number 2, patients need to quarantine in EMF-free zones and EMF-free hospitals, as COVID-19 is a bioweapon and inhibits the uptake of oxygen even if black seed is applied. So black seed in itself is not going to guarantee recovery for the most vulnerable. Sheltering in place in an EMF zone will be deadly. So those people who are most vulnerable, who have contracted this illness, if they shelter in place in an EMF zone, electromagnetic frequency zone, they will not make it. That's we talked about that yesterday for the hospitals who are upping their electromagnetic frequencies. EMF, and I continue, EMF zones include anywhere there is cell tower service, cell phones, Wi-Fi modem service, smart meter service, etc. And I do want to explain to your listeners how much I appreciate your program for all the years that you have been harping on the dangers of these devices that are inflicting now so much injury, not only on the population, but now also causing death with these bioweapon type viruses. And I continue. In order to halt the spread of the coronavirus and curb the mortality from such, turning off the grid for short periods of time is recommended. Number 3, patients need to consume immune-boosting substances in addition to taking their black seed and possibly going off grid, running to the mountains, as it were, not running to the hospital right now because the hospitals have increased their electromagnetic frequency usage. You need to go to off-grid places, run to the mountains, take your bag of black seed oil, and run to the mountains if you want to survive this, if you are in the most vulnerable situation. So
okay, Sue, hold it for a second, please. You said a lot, and I have some questions.
For sure.
Number 1, you said up here, we up here. Who are we?
Okay.
Who are we? That you've experienced this testing with. Who are we?
Yeah. Okay. Are we going to break or?
Yeah, we are. And David in Florida, would you please hold on, and we will get right back to you after bottom of the hour commercials. And I have some short answer questions for Sue Holland, and then we'll be with you, David. We're back. Sue Holland's with us. She's calling from Canada. David's on hold. Sue, I have some very quick questions for you. And I'm going to tell our broadcast classroom that I have no information that says that black cumin seed is a cure for coronavirus. I'm going to say that. So if you want to try this, you're on your own. Sue, you said we up here. Who are we up here who have tested this? How many people have been tested for the cure, as you say, of the coronavirus? How many and who?
Well, I cannot disclose that information.
Okay. I just dropped the call. Now, why did I do that? because she's making claims and she won't disclose how many or who. And let me tell you this, class. She mentioned an EMF-free zone. There is no such thing. If you are in the civilized world and you have an electric light bulb overhead, there's electromagnetic frequencies coming from it, whether it be an incandescent, a fluorescent, or an LED light bulb. There are overhead satellite communications. There are radio transmission towers. There are television transmission towers. There are shortwave transmission towers. There's marine. There is military. There's civilian transmissions going on 24/7, 365. There is no such place where you can go to get away from electromagnetic radiation that I know of, except maybe deep underground. David in Florida, welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
I was listening to your show. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'm glad you called, but please continue.
Okay. I was listening to your show when she called in yesterday, and I got the gist of it. And I am home quarantined. I'm waiting for the results of my test. I'm A positive. I've been deteriorating and writing a diary down of all my what I take for meds, what my O2 levels are, all that stuff. And when I heard what she had to say, I about jumped out of bed because I was listening to it at 3 o'clock in the morning on YouTube. My wife has a degree in environmental science. And in 2006, she was doing private research and was taking air samples at our location. She wanted to record in photographs and video of the results that she was seeing under the microscope. So I interfaced her binocular microscope with a camera adapter, and we used a Sony camera with 6x optical magnification. And we were doing a video of a material that was captured in her air samples. And when an energy field was introduced to that sample, it became active. I sent you a text. I sent you an email. I will discuss this with you offline, off the radio. But I wanted to reinforce what she's saying because I believe that it could be a bio weapon. And I believe it can be triggered by a specific frequency. What do you think?
I think you could be absolutely positively right. Now,
okay.
the reason I disconnected the call with Sue Holland is because she would not give us any specific information. She didn't want to do it yesterday, and she didn't want to do it today. She wanted to talk all around it. And I don't want to give hope to people who might think, this is it. I'm going to be saved by this. And they might not be. Now, if you want to do your own research about black cumin seed, I think that's wonderful. And do I believe that electromagnetic frequencies affect the body? Absolutely. I've been talking about this as long as I've been on the air. I've said that I used to be a computer jockey. I used to be the senior consultant for a computer manufacturing company. I was the senior guy at 3 of the largest credit card banks in the country developing bleeding with a B, edge technologies. And I know for a fact that electromagnetic frequencies really disrupt the body. And when I built computers for sale out of our company in Virginia, I sent them out to California to be tested by an EMF lab to make sure that I reduced the EMF to the maximum level that would be physically possible. The computers that I manufactured were in an entire enclosure of metal. They were metal within metal to minimize the electromagnetic radiation. I am extremely concerned about it. In the studio right now, I cannot touch the monitors. I cannot reach them. They're too far away. I cannot reach the computers. They are really far away. And I have in our house, when I wired our house, I put a lot of the wiring in conduit, Romex in conduit. Then I painted the walls where the wires were with primer that I mixed in copper dust, copper the consistency of white flour, mixed that in the primer so that I would reflect the electromagnetic radiation from the wires back into the walls. So I'm extremely concerned about this. I've got filters on everything. I've got chokes, I've got capacitors, I've got all kinds of filtration to minimize the electromagnetic radiation, and I have meters to detect it. The microwave oven in our kitchen is in a location where you can hit the button if you want to and run. I am extremely concerned. I have switches to power off everything. When it's not being used, it is turned off, but you can't get away from it completely. It's impossible. I fought the electric company to get rid of the smart meters. I ran 4 separate times over 5 years to be on the board of directors to allow people to stop the smart meters, and they shut me down. I mean, I fought this every way I knew how, and it's impossible to shut down the businesses that are in the business of using and promoting electromagnetic radiation, like Verizon, T-Mobile, U.S. Cellular, the television companies, like Dish and Network and so forth. It's impossible. The police love electromagnetic radiation. They love the communications. They love the spying technology. The government loves it. It's everywhere. And the GDP has smartphones everywhere they go, and they won't leave them alone. They won't walk away from their smartphones. It's really serious, and we can't stop it.
Yes. And I've been listening to your show for the last couple of years through YouTube. I'll listen every night. And I'm an electronic specialist. And boy, could we connect, because I do my own mechanical work, electronics, machine tool, carpentry, you name it. I've been involved in it, love it. So if we could take time off air and talk, wow, we would connect. I will tell you right now that I'm an electronic specialist, and some of the things that I do is I work on circuits that are involved in temperatures above 100 degrees centigrade for extended periods of time, and they're also subjected to shock levels in excess of 50,000 Gs. I build it, test it, and assemble it into instrumentation packages. So I'm not a dummy.
No, you're not. And those are probably on the extremes of what humanity is capable of doing. And
I started out my training as a biomedical electronics tech. And so anyway, I can go on and on about that, and I don't want to. I just want to reinforce that she's hit something that has really sparked an interest in me. And no, she can't say that it's a cure. No, she can't make claims. I agree with that, and she shouldn't be saying that. But she's probably a younger person. I'm 66, and she hasn't lived long enough to understand how to go about doing these type of releases. It can be very difficult because
what she has said is common knowledge in my circles and in your circles. Okay? There's nothing new about electromagnetic radiation impacting the body. There's nothing new about that. We've known that for a long, long time. We've known that X-rays can kill you from the 1920s. We knew that. So it's I just had a problem with her trying to make some claims that she could not substantiate. And the reason I disconnected the call so quickly is she would not substantiate. She said, "We have tested." Who is that? Who are we? Okay? She wouldn't tell us. That I cannot let that continue. You can't make claims on USA Prepares that are unsubstantiated. You can't do it. I won't allow it. Now, would I love this to be the answer? Would I love the black cumin seed to be the answer? Absolutely. And class, if you want to do your own research, feel free to do that. I can't stop you. And I don't want to tell you that it works because I don't know. I really don't know if it works. But do I take vitamins, mineral supplements? Yes. Do I stay away from electromagnetic radiation the best I can? Yes. Do I drive a new car? No. Because if you get in the cabin of a new car and you have a tri-field meter, you better hold on to it tightly, because when that needle swings all the way over to the maximum reading, it might jump out of your hand. New cars are a a cavity of electromagnetic radiation. You won't believe it. From the cooling system, the heating system, the computers. Some cars have as many as 100 or more computers, all networked on a bus. Transmission control, suspension control, making sure you have your seatbelt on, reminding you about the turn signals, the fuel system of the engine, the temperature control of the engine, the temperature control of the transmission, the shift points of the transmission, on and on and on. I mean, a lot of devices, let alone the cameras and the sensors for proximity. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and all of that relates to electromagnetic radiation. David, do you agree or disagree?
I agree wholeheartedly, and I would encourage her to continue in her research and to keep it as public as she can. And I would say to you that as far as effects of electromagnetic radiation are concerned on a human body, just like an antenna, your body resonates at a specific frequency, and the maximum transfer of power is at the frequency at which your body resonates, which just happens to be cell phone frequencies, radar frequencies. If you look at the black cumin that she's talking about, they talk about improving immune deficiency in people that take it. Now, they can't claim that it does, but isn't it interesting that that's one of the things that they're talking about with the black cumin? And in people that have this virus, if they have an immune deficiency disorder, that's a trigger for this stuff to really do them some damage. And the other thing that I wanted to throw in there is in China, 21 million cell phones went off the air. And people are saying these people died. What if the government of China told the people in the medical community, this is a bioweapon, it's triggered by cell phone frequencies, and if you don't turn them off, this isn't going to stop? What if
that makes absolute sense to me. And we talked about that. We've talked about that on this broadcast. If you'd like to hold through the break, you're welcome to do that, David. So as far as the black cumin or black seed oil, it's been used for thousands of years by the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, and we know that it is an immune system booster. So if you talk with Dr. Shuley, he'll tell you that you need to boost your immune system. And he talks about vitamin B, he talks about vitamin C, he talks about astaxanthin. He tells you that you need to boost your immune system. There's no question about it. So for Sue Holland, if you'd like to do something I think would be very productive and get you jump started in this passion of yours, I suggest you call Dr. Norm Shuley and tell him that you called on the air and that you'd be interested in suggesting that he study black seed oil as a treatment or a cure for the coronavirus. And I'm going to give you his number. His office number is 417-351-5221, 417-351-5221. That's in Springfield, Missouri. And so that's Central Time Zone. And give him a call and tell him that you're on the air with me. You can even tell him that I disconnected the call because you would not provide enough information to substantiate your claim. You refused to do it. And you can tell him that I disconnected the call because of that. But I thought that if he thinks, as a medical doctor, that there's something to it, then it's worth studying. And I think there is reason for studying. And he's the guy to do it because he is the holistic medicine expert in this country. He's internationally known. He is Surgeon of the Year. And he studied and did his internship at Harvard's Massachusetts General Hospital. He did his training at Duke University, both very well respected. And he's written almost 40 books, real books. So he's a great source for carrying out the study, and I've been a part of many of his studies. And so has Mrs. Finelli. We've done it. So he's the guy, and I gave you the number. So, David, I hear what you're saying. I have no disagreement with anything you've said. I believe that many of these conspiracy theories or conspiracy facts are true. But I also believe that we've got to get past it. And the thing to prevent us from getting infected is distance and self-quarantine. Or you can call it lockdown. My farm is on lockdown. We're all on lockdown. So, any other comments, David?
Yes. I would just like to say something about the trigger event. Cell phones may be a frequency that's involved in triggering the virus to become more deadly. And as you have said, you can't block all signals. But if you take cell phone frequencies, you can, in a Faraday cage, put a spectrum analyzer inside the cage and look at a band of frequencies and drop the levels to the point of, really low, below 80 dB, which is almost nothing. But you're right, you can't eliminate it completely. But what if there is a specific energy level that could be used in triggering a virus or triggering an element? Nanotechnology is a perfect example of something that can be triggered using an external energy source, a specific frequency, and output level. If you reduce the output level of the source, it could be dropped below a point in which it is no longer a trigger. And that could be just go outdoors and get away from the Wi-Fi. I mean, it's a very low output signal in a smart meter, in a cell phone. You put distance between that equipment, and you've reduced the output level. Now, if you look at the people that are...
Let's talk about that for...
Sure.
Let's talk about that for just a second, and then we'll go on to the people. If you have a tablet, an iPad or a computer, and you sit in your home and you search for Wi-Fi signals to, hop on, you'll find a whole bunch of them if you live in a neighborhood. You'll find a lot more if you live in the city. Now, I'm not suggesting that you hop on somebody's Wi-Fi and steal their signal. I'm not suggesting that. What I am saying is if your computer can see it, it's bombarding your body. And if you have Wi-Fi in your home or apartment or office, that Wi-Fi signal is stronger than the signals outside of your office or home or apartment. So what you can do, and if you live in an apartment building that's made out of 2x4s, frame construction, you're getting bombarded by the people above you, below you, left and right, and behind you. Okay, so you're probably going to get 20 signals. Well, one thing that you can do is you can reduce your signal to a lower transmission level, lower output. And the way you do that is you go to your computer and you type in the following: 192.168.0.1, and you will find a page that comes up on your screen where you can log in and adjust the power level of your radio. And your radio is the transmitter and receiver of your Wi-Fi box. We'll be right back. David, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. And you probably ought to reduce it from 100% down to 10%. And that will help you. David, did you want to hold?
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. It was just me today, and David in Florida called in, and I mentioned typing in on your browser 192.168.0.1. Sometimes you might replace that 0 with a 1, so that'd be 192.168.1.1. That's typically the most popular way to reach your modem router. And then it will have the login and the password on the bottom of it. And you can turn it upside down or look on the side of it. There'll be a label, and it will tell you your login and your password. You type that in, and then you select the tab that says wireless or radio, and then you select the power level that you want. And not all, but most of these modem routers have a power level for the wireless, and it's typically 10, 20, 30, 90, 100%, and you can reduce that power level. And the other thing you can do is move that away from you, okay, where you're going to be spending most of your time. because that thing transmits omnidirectionally all around a 360-degree circle, because it doesn't know if you move that notebook computer of yours from the dining room to the living room to the kitchen table. It doesn't know, but it'll still work. So the problem is that it is 360 degrees. So if you got it in your bedroom, that's crazy. If you've got it where you spend most of your time, that's crazy. If you've got it next to you, that's really crazy. David, your comments?
Yeah. One of the things that I did for attenuation of signals is I bought one of these wallets that you can block RFID transmissions from your credit card, a debit card, or whatever. You put it in that wallet. It's got a really fine mesh, metal, and it will block the transmissions to the RFID. You will also
hold it for just a second.
Yep.
Hold it for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but so there was an advertisement on a radio network, and I heard this, and they claimed the same thing. So I called them up, and what I do is I call up advertisers. When the first time I hear them, I usually call them up and say, hey, thanks so much for advertising on the network. For example, thank you for advertising on GCN. And I'm Vincent Finelli, and your advertisement appeared on my radio broadcast, and I'm interested to learn about your product. And one of those was exactly one of those products. So I said, hey, what I'd like to do is I'd like to see one. Now, I'm not going to buy it, and I'm not going to keep it, but I'd like you, if you would, send me one. I'd like to test it. I'd like to see what I think about it, and I'll tell you. And I'll send it back. Okay, I'm not looking for free stuff. And I got one. And I put a cell phone in it in the days when I had a cell phone. That was years ago. I put a cell phone in it, and I called it from another phone, and you know what? It rang. And then I put the cell phone in a microwave oven and closed the door and called it, and it rang. So that tells me that both of those devices leak, meaning the microwave oven with the semi-Faraday cage. It's not really a complete Faraday cage because there's screens inside that allow the magnetron tube to blast the microwaves into the cavity, and the door leaks. So there's leakage in a microwave oven, and you can measure that with a meter. And there is leakage that allows you to call your cell phone through these protective devices. So the problem is that they leak. You might even be able to put a cell phone into a metal barrel, an oil drum, and it does not have a seal, meaning completely sealed, top, bottom, left, right. If it has a little lip, the microwaves can sometimes get through that too. So it's not perfect. And I just want to make sure our class understood. I sent it back, and you know what they did? They had to redesign their product because it didn't work. They were making claims that their silver-infused fabric that will protect you actually did not. Any comments?
And I took mine, and I put my cell phone in it, and I left it in there on, and it got really hot because it was trying to connect to the tower and constantly transmitting, trying to link to the tower. Take it out of the package, and it's recovering. It's like, well, where am I? And it's trying to figure out what tower can I connect to, etc. So I'm satisfied that mine works, and it works to the point where if I don't want to be tracked, if I'm going to go do something that maybe I shouldn't be doing, or maybe I just don't want to, be tracked, period. Put it in that little pouch, and I am free and clear. And I'm satisfied that I'm free and clear. If you want, I'll send you mine, and you can try it. I don't even know if you can still buy them or not anymore. I bought mine years ago.
Well, I have one. I have one.
Mm-hmm.
I have one that absolutely does work. And it was made like a Prince Albert tobacco can. It's that shape, and it's made out of one piece of aluminum. It is a piece of billet, and it's machined, hollowed out, and it has a really, really tight, almost leak-proof, waterproof lid, and it has a metallic O-ring around it. I mean, it is tight. And what you're saying is your phone was trying its absolute hardest, ramping up the power more to try to reach the tower, and it couldn't. And that's why it got hot. And that makes a lot of sense. But my suggestion is, class, if you decide to buy one of these devices, that you try it. In the store, say, may I try this? And you say, here's my phone number. Would you mind calling my phone while it's in there? And if it rings, it's not working. It's as simple as that. It might be working partially, but it's not working completely. Any comments about that, David?
Yes. In doing defense work for specific radio equipment, transmitting receivers, it could be an identification friend to foe, or it could be a transmitter for transmitting data or power. Take it to a specific location that is classified, put it in a room specifically built for the frequencies for that device, and monitor it using a spectrum analyzer. And I could give you the names of some of them that are they might as well be from outer space compared to I started out in tubes in 1971. And I've seen the progression of tubes all the way through microcircuits, and I have worked in all of it. And what we had for monitoring frequencies back in the days of tubes compared to what I saw in I can't remember the name of it, Schroeder, whatever, there's some name of the different scopes. I've done Hewlett-Packards and all kinds of other stuff with spectrum analyzers, but I saw the latest one, and they were looking at signals at minus 80 dB. And then they were beautiful, crisp, clear. I built a amplifier that would amplify signals 80 dB, and the way it was calibrated is we put a resistor across the input of that amplifier. We measured the electron noise that resistor generated into that amplifier, and the output had to be within a specific range to be calibrated. And the engineer designed the thing. I built it, did the test, and assembled them, and they were so good the military bought them. Or I shouldn't say military, but government.
You're talking about low noise amplifiers.
Low noise amplifiers. Yes, and ours had a specific filter on it. So you could switch the filter in and out.
When we worked with
that 40 dB. Mm-hmm.
When we worked with those, we had a company in California, and we worked with them. And back in the 80s, they were relatively new, solid-state low-noise amplifiers. And the manufacturers were experimenting, and they used supercooling to get them really, really cold in order to achieve the low-noise amplification in the early days. That's not necessary today. But, I'm talking 40 years ago. And I think, and when you're talking about spectrum analyzers of the tube type, you're talking about of that vintage as well, right?
Rhodes and Schwartz is the one I was thinking about. I saw one at a trade show, and I was blown away by it, like a kid in a candy store. Sure. And they have the mode.
David, I'd like you to.
Yeah.
I'd like you to leave your number with our engineer. So at the end of this segment, if you care to, leave your number with Jason, and I'll do my best to call you over the weekend. Okay?
Certainly. Yeah. Can I throw in a couple more things about people? Yeah.
Sure.
I want to stay on point to what we're talking about, but there was 100 kids that went on spring break to Mexico. When they came back, 28 of them tested positive for the virus. And what did the kids do when they're in a foreign country and they're on break? They're on that cell phone like it's glued to their hand. If you look at the elderly population that's being somewhat targeted by this virus, what does an elderly person do with a cell phone? They keep it in their shirt pocket or their pocket, or it's really close by, so if they fall, get hurt, have an accident, that phone is right next to them. And what does a cell phone do? It's constantly transmitting those frequencies to connect to towers all the time. So there is an opportunity for a triggering event. So that's just another thing I wanted to throw out there.
Okay, and we've talked about that for years, David. So what happens is most women are right-handed, most people are right-handed, and they talk with their left hand holding a cell phone on their left ear because they write with a pencil or pen with their right hand. That's why they do that. And when they put their phone someplace, if they don't have a shirt pocket, they put it in their left bra pocket, and they're experiencing left breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, right-handed mostly, put their cell phone, they use their left hand the same way the women do. The guys put their cell phone in their right front pants pocket because they're right-handed. Women,
Yeah.
if they don't have a bra on or a bra that's big enough and they want their cell phone, they put it in their right rear pocket of their pants if they, have blue jeans or something like that. So that's where the cancers are appearing because people are right-handed for the most part. So we have left side brain cancer, we have left breast cancer, and we have right pocket cancer for guys and right rear pocket butt side for girls and women. That's because most people are right-handed. And it's absolutely crazy to me to place that thing, that transmitter, that radio, that transmits and receives microwave frequencies, one thickness of cloth away from the body. Absolutely nuts. Because, as you said, distance, you didn't use these exact words, but with radio frequencies, distance is your friend. And that's the truth of it. Any quick comments?
I agree. I'd like to.
Did you have something else you wanted to share?
I do.
Sure. Okay. You'll have to hold through the break. You'll have to hold through the break.
Okay.
David's with us. And make sure you leave your telephone number. Try it during the break with our engineer, Jason. Jason, would you please get his phone number? Thank you. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. David in Florida is with us. David, I have your number. Thank you. I'll do my best to call you this weekend. Do you have something else you wanted to share?
Yes. You've got me saying GDP, and I wanted to bring up a point of when I went to my coronavirus test. They said, come alone in your vehicle, arrive at the site, keep your windows up, turn your car off, somebody will come out and speak with you. So I did that, and I pulled into a space next to a handicap place, and on the other side was a vehicle pulled in. They got the window halfway rolled down. And I said, there you go. That's GDP. And those are the people that are going to kill us. I thought you'd like that.
There you go. David, what many may not realize is if you have an automobile and the engine is running, the heating and air conditioning system, circulation of the air, the fan system, the blower motor is running. And you might not be able to hear it, but it's on a very low speed, but it's running. And the reason it's running is so that you don't asphyxiate in your car. So even if you think it's not running, and even though you haven't set it to number 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or whatever the setting might be in your vehicle, it's running to protect you from asphyxiation. So there are people who have their engines running, and what I believe they were trying to tell you is if you have your engine running, then your blower system would be blowing fresh air into the car, blowing it out the open window, and into the face of the person testing you for the virus. Do you think that makes sense?
I think you just nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, and they want the engine off for that reason, as well as some people forget to put their vehicles in park if they have an automatic transmission, and they don't want to be run over. So that's another reason. David, are you willing to share with us, and you don't have to, why you think you needed to be tested? Were you exposed? Was it in your travels? What do you think it was?
I was working with an engineer the day after he returned from Washington, D.C. on a flight, and I don't hardly ever work with him side by side, and I spent most of the day working with him side by side. And he qualified for the test. Shortly after that, I lost a whole week and was home with many of the problems that people that have the virus have. my doctor. I called my doctor's office. They said, well, don't come in here. Call this number. Get online and talk to the county health department. And I did. And they said, based on your symptoms and what you're giving us, then come in for the test. And they told me where to go. Once I got there, they identified me and took me inside the building to an exam room, and everything was all clear all the way through. Somebody opens the door for you. They wipe everything down. They give you a mask so that you can't contaminate anybody. And they repeated the questions that I got from the phone conversation saying, do you qualify for this test? They don't want to give it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they're short of them, or maybe they don't work. I don't know. But anyway, yes, you qualify for the test. We're going to do it right now. And where was I going with that?
I can tell you why. And I know this. And I've said on the air, when I say I know, class, it's not I think. It's I know. So I know this. And I'm not going to tell you how I know. But I know that the reason that they want you to qualify for the test, there's nothing they're going to be able to do for you other than the test just proves whether you have it. But there's no treatment other than oxygen, ventilator, intravenous vitamin C. I mean, that's it. There's no cure at this moment. So the reason they give you the test is several weeks ago, I'm going to say it this way. I learned firsthand, I was there, that doctors have no idea what to do. Nurses have no idea what to do. The protective equipment is in very short supply. The tests are in very short supply. And the reason they want you to qualify for the test is they don't want to waste them. They don't want to waste them because they don't have enough. That is the reality of the situation. David, if you'd like to hold, I'd love to hear some more about your experiences. And do you think I am crazy saying this is real? We'll be right back. Class, we're back. And you're kind of learning firsthand what it's like when someone calls and is on the verge of becoming an instructor. You're hearing it firsthand. And David talked about students from spring break, and he mentioned that some have tested positive. While there were 70 students whom chartered an airplane to Texas for spring break. And 44 of them tested positive for the coronavirus. Now, these were the ones that, it's only for old people. Young people don't get it. Only people with underlying conditions get it. Well, they got it too, as well as the students that David was talking about. And something I've noticed here over the farm, I've been watching the chemical spraying, the chemtrails that the GDP calls contrails and says, that's nothing. That's normal. It's not normal. Well, that spraying has stopped. We called for the president to stop it. And I believe that the reason it stopped is because the scientists who are running the show have figured out what we already knew, and that is that the ultraviolet light kills the virus. So they had to stop preventing the sunlight from reaching the earth. But what's happened lately is the clouds are flying by. I'm looking out the studio window, and they are at high speed. They're just flying by. They were flying by yesterday. The wind has kicked up. Have you noticed that in your area, class? So just look up and see if you have chemtrails. I think they've stopped. And we called for it, and we kind of embarrassed those people into stopping this because now they think maybe they might die as a result of the coronavirus. And the numbers, I can tell you that I'm reading that the numbers are wrong. The numbers from Italy are wrong. The numbers in Florida are wrong. Now, some people are saying that the mainstream media is inflating the numbers, making them larger than they really are, which is exactly the opposite of what's happening. The numbers are low because the tests are low. They don't have enough tests. And when more people get tested, the numbers will explode upward. That's my opinion. David, why is it that, or what are the symptoms that you've had? You've explained that you were in contact with someone who was on an airplane. And I think you said that I am not nuts, thinking that, in my opinion, that this is absolutely real. But most people think it's a fake, it's BS, to use their term. Do you think it's fake or BS?
No. And from the fake standpoint, when I saw them in China come out and test patients dressed in a spacesuit, it's like nobody does that. So this is real. And I will tell you that I've had both government training and private training in hazardous materials. I did the 40-hour HAZWOPER course, and I dressed in one of those spacesuits. They're terrible to work in, but if they're going to show up in something that difficult to use and go through, incoming contamination and outgoing contamination, the whole works, this is very serious. This is nothing to be messing with right from the get-go.
David, you're an engineer, and let me tell you this. I am watching the screen. From the minute you started answering me, the frame loss went way up. The delay went to 2,000 milliseconds. That's the most it's going to show me. It's peaked, which means that you and I have, well, from me to GCN at the network, there's a 2-second delay, 2,000 milliseconds. So it's not looking good. I think something has happened based on what our conversation is. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me share with you a couple notes that I wrote down, and I'd love to hear your opinion as someone who's been exposed. And we're going to add you to our prayers tonight. I'll tell Mrs. Finelli we say our prayers together, and let's pray that you are not infected while you wait for the results. So here's a call that I received over the last. Excuse me? Did we lose David? I don't know if we lost David or not. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if I'm on the air. Jason, am I on the air? Let's see. I'm looking at another meter. Yeah, it looks like I'm on the air, but I don't know if Jason can hear me. So I'll just continue. So I received this phone call, and it was from one of our students. And I'm going to paraphrase this. So a member of his family, a very close blood relative of his family, someone he's very close with, talks with very often, was talking with our student. And this member of the family is a nurse in a large hospital in a city, and said, what websites are you going to? Who are you listening to? Where are you getting this information from? This isn't going on. There's no panic. This coronavirus is nothing. There's nothing to worry about. It's no big deal. And that happened until the bodies started showing up. And the bodies started showing up from cars, and those bodies, those limp bodies, were being dragged out of the car into the hospital. And now they're overwhelmed. That is what is happening. So, no big deal. The coronavirus, no big deal. No one's really worried about it until it happens to that hospital. Then there is the panic. Then there is the overwhelming of the hospital staff. Then they find out that they don't have the masks, the respirators, the protective equipment, and so forth. So right now, the world has over 1 million people infected by the coronavirus, over 1 million. You heard that on the news. America has more than 6,000 dead. 911 people have died in the last 24 hours in the United States of America. And more than 250,000 of us here in America have been infected. More than 245,000. It's actually more than 250,000. And this particular virus can be spread by breathing. Just normal respiration. Flushing the toilet. The aerosolization of the bodily fluids in the toilet, just by the flushing mechanism, can spread the virus. They used to say that you need to maintain 6 feet. It's not the right number. The number is at least 26 feet. So they were off by 20 feet. And I've mentioned many, many times that if you are in one of these big box stores, and we'll just name a few. Why? Because I've seen it there. Like the Chinese factory outlet or Sam's. You go in the men's room, you'll see toilet paper on the floor. You'll see bits of paper towels on the floor. Now, I know they're trying to clean them. I'm not trying to beat them up saying, y'all aren't paying attention. I think it's the GDP that is so careless and so reckless that they drop the paper towels and pee on the floor and etc. Don't flush the toilet. Somebody forgot to raise them, meaning raise these people when they were younger. So they're just careless and reckless, and they don't care about the next person. So if you're a man and you look down as you approach one of these urinals, you're not going to want to get so close because there's pee all over the floor. So then you step in it, and then you track it throughout the store, and then other people step in what you tracked around the store, and you track it around further, and other people before you have already tracked it around the store. And then you get in your vehicle and go home with the same shoes that stood in pee, whether you went to the men's room or ladies' room or not. And not everybody washes his hands. And then they touch things on the store shelves, and they go, oh, should we get? No, we won't get this. We'll put it back. How about this one? No. How about this head of lettuce? Oh, there's a better one over there. Let's put this one back and get that one. That's what happens. Just look, watch, you'll see it. Happens every day. So you're touching things that people touched that may have the virus, and it lasts for hours, if not days. And here's what's happening. The new car market is almost in free fall, in my opinion, almost. How many of you have thought about that new SUV? Hey, honey, let's get a new SUV or a new sports car or a crossover or an exotic car, a Ferrari or a Porsche or a Tesla or a hybrid. How many of you thought about that recently? It's kind of off the radar, isn't it? We're thinking about trying to survive, right? Experts believe, what are experts? I guess those are people who are paid to give opinions. Experts believe that the new automobile market, new cars, will be down by 15% for this year. I think that's a wish. I think it's going to be much lower than that. And experts are saying that we might even enter a recession. I think that's a wish. Because I've said publicly numerous times, we've already passed the recession. We are into the full-blown beginning of the second Great Depression, which I believe will be the greatest depression. I've also said this is not going to be over by Easter. It's not going to be over in a few weeks. It's not going to be over in a few months. This is going to go on for years. I think we're looking at a minimum of 2 years before the beginning of the turnaround. And I'm not saying it's going to be a quick turnaround. I think it's going to last 20 years. And I don't think we're ever coming back. Not in our lifetimes. I mean, I'm 68. I don't think we're ever going to see the great days again. I really don't. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm just telling you, this is what I think is going to happen. My economics training, my finance training, my chemical training, my physics training, my biological training, my farming, my electronics training, the things that I've studied because I wanted to learn more about them, my formal education. It is absolutely positively real. So my question for you is, do you have a freezer? If yes, well done. If No. Why not? Why don't you have a freezer? Now, I can understand that if you live in a tiny apartment, it's difficult. I can understand that. But if you live in a home and you have a garage or a basement, why don't you have a freezer? Why? So if you don't have one, I suggest you consider getting one if you have room for it. And I suggest that you get your supplies so that you don't have to go out. And I suggest that you don't buy a brand new made in communist China freezer because they're cheesy. They're cheap. In my opinion, they're substandard. They're thin. They're lightweight. And they won't last very long. Okay, final segment. Brian in Wisconsin, welcome.
Hi, Vince.
Hey.
Good luck with buying a freezer now. I've just drove 50 miles to get a used one. We had one go out back in the good old days, and I guess I should have jumped on a little bit sooner. But, yeah, they are hard to find right now.
No, you're absolutely right. And I have a comment about that, Brian. So if your freezer or refrigerator quits, I have a suggestion for you, and you need to do this like soon. There is a device called a hard start kit, HARD, as if the compressor is hard to start. So this is a hard HARD start kit, 3 words, for refrigerators and freezers. And you can buy them on eBay for about $9.99 or less shipped. Okay? And sometimes it's called a 3-in-1. That would be the number 3, the letter N, and the number 1. Like 3 and 1, but 3-in-1. Hard start kit. And you have to size it for the compressor size of your refrigerator or freezer. So you roll that thing out. There's usually a back cover on the freezer or the refrigerator, and you take the a nut driver or screwdriver, and you take those, maybe 4 or 6 screws out, and you'll see the compressor, and there'll be a label on there. And you find how many horsepower it is, and it might be 1/4 of a horsepower or 1/3 of a horsepower, or a newer one might be a 12th, a 10th, an 8th, a 16th, or a 5th of a horsepower. And you buy the right hard start kit, and there are 5 wires, 2 wires, and you just cut the wires. It takes about 15 minutes to install it, and most of the time, it will fire that refrigerator or freezer right back up.
Okay, that's good to know.
So it's called a hard start kit. And class, you ought to buy one. And if you have a refrigerator or freezer and you're mechanically inclined, you can go to a YouTube video and figure out how to do it. It literally takes a couple minutes. And I keep a couple of them, the right sizes, for our refrigeration equipment. And I've used them because here's what happens. It seems like there's a law. They shut down on Friday night or Friday afternoon. And then you call like Lowe's and you say, hey, you all have a freezer? Well, yes and no. We have them, and you can get one, in about a week, and we can deliver it. But you can't buy any here because we don't have any for sale. We just have demonstrator models that we can show you, but you can't have one of those. Same thing with Home Depot and the other stores. So generally, when your refrigerator freezer quits, you won't be able to get one for a week. But if you have a hard start kit already, you can generally fix it. And I would say 9 out of 10 times you can use this kit to fix it, and it will continue for years. So hard start kit. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, Brian, did you buy a freezer, and what did you get?
We've been looking for weeks already, and, we'll respond to an ad within 10 minutes. It's gone. And we finally got one to respond to it in time last night. It's small. It's only it's probably 7 or 8 cubic feet, but it's just, we just grabbed it because we couldn't find anything in the stores. They're anywhere from the end of May till August to get the freezers in. They're cleaned out. So,
okay, so
yeah,
I bought a Montgomery Ward's freezer. Montgomery Ward's has been out of business for like 20-something years. Okay, so I bought one, and it's marked Montgomery Ward's. It's made by Whirlpool, and it's got dings and dents in it, and has a little bit of rust on it. It wasn't taken care of as well as I would have taken care of it, but it's intact, and I can fix it. And I paid $70 for it, and it's I think it's 18 cubic feet. And then I decided I wanted to get some spare parts for it, so I found another one, and I think it was $50. And I think it was 16 cubic feet. So, but that was then. That was in the good old days, like weeks ago. Now people have caught on.
Yep.
And they couldn't wait. They couldn't wait to get
140. Yep.
140. Okay, what'd you get?
$140. I don't even know the brand. It works. I got there. It was cold. I grabbed it and gave him the money and ran. I mean, I was so happy to find something, you know. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so here's what you do. When things as people succumb to this, there will probably be some more used freezers available. Now, my recommendation, class, is that you try to find one that has a name like Kenmore. That was the Sears brand, because Sears tested their products before they released them to the public years ago. Now, I'm talking about something, it's going to be 20 years old. It might be 30 years old. And they have a refrigerant called R12, or Freon 12. It was a great, great refrigerant. Low pressure. The compressors didn't have to work too hard. And they lasted 30, 40, 50 years. So what you really should consider is a Kenmore brand or a Whirlpool brand, and Whirlpool made them for Kenmore, or General Electric, an old General Electric, nothing new, because General Electric new products are, pretty trashy in my opinion. So, and Montgomery Ward's, theirs were made by Whirlpool as well. So that's why I was willing to go for the Whirlpool. So what you do is look up some images of what the Whirlpools look like, and then when you go to buy one, if you ever find one, you'll know what they look like from the images on the internet of the older ones. And the Whirlpools look very similar to the Kenmores and the Montgomery Ward's models. Brian, did you have something else that you wanted to say?
Yes, I've got a good use for your microwave. You take it outside, paint the orange circle on it, and target practice.
Yeah, they're really not very good Faraday cages. People think they are, but they're really not so hot.
We did an experiment when my daughters were in grade school. If you microwave water and try to grow seeds, it will not grow a plant. And it doesn't have to be very long. And the Mythbusters did not do the experiment correctly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of errors in Mythbusters, like the tailgate on your pickup truck doesn't increase mileage if you put it down. That's nonsense. It does increase your mileage. Brian, thanks so much.